Hello, everyone. Good evening and good morning to some of you. Please give us additional few minutes to let everyone in. And I think in 4 minutes, we will be starting. So it's my pleasure to see all of you here. Thank you for coming. My very warm welcome to all our customers and partners, and very, very warm welcome to all of you who are thinking to become our customer. Akim tells, hello, everyone from France. Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone from France. And hello, everyone from... I'm actually curious to know what countries do we have here. So I've seen Brazil. So good morning to everyone from Brazil. Good afternoon for Germany. Paul, you are with us. So good night to Singapore. Good morning to United States. Germany. Great. I'm wondering if we have someone from Africa. So we already have all the continents, excluding Africa and Australia. So I'm wondering if we do have anyone from Africa, Australia. Ukraine. Hello. Okay, so I think this is the moment when we can start. And let me please give the short introduction to our speakers today and to myself, first of all. So hello, ladies and gentlemen. My very, very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Anastasia. I'm sales responsible in Social Links, and I'm very, very much pleased to welcome all of you on board to this joint and long-awaited webinar with our greatest partner, Maltego team. So today we have two speakers with us. The first is Mr. Mario Rojas. He is a cybersecurity expert from Maltego team. And he is actually the greatest cybersec professional with more than 11 years of experience. And from Social Link side, we have Mr. Ivan Kravtsov, our Osint analyst, and my personal name to him is I call him our Maltego and Social Links hero. So today, actually, we know that open source intelligence and the social media intelligence and utilization of those tools in investigations is actually a becoming very crucial these days in investigating not only the modern crimes, but also sometimes in investigating the traditional crimes. So it's this toolkit becomes very important in law enforcement's everyday life. And today, Mario and Ivan going to show you some of possible scenarios of using best open source and social media intelligence toolkit, what is Maltego and Social Links, in your investigations. So basically the topics and the workflow that we will cover today is the following. So the first, you will see how you can investigate how you can investigate and retrieve the person of interest social media footprint. Then you will see how you can enrich this information using Social Links identity search engine. And the last but not least, you will see how actually our facial recognition functionality can enrich your findings, and then how you can from clear web jump to dark web and do some investigation there. So the agenda is really big for today, and I'm really hoping that you will enjoy this webinar and you will see some interesting techniques for yourself. So talking about the organizational part, the webinar will take us all in all 1 hour and a half, I'm sorry. And you will have the Q&A session in the end. So please do not hesitate to put your questions in chat, and then you will definitely have time. In the end, you will have definitely time to, we will have time to answer all your questions. So having all that, once again, very warm welcome to all of you, and let's start. Mario, I'm giving you the floor.
Thank you for that great introduction, Anastasia. So if you can present, okay, yeah, I can see now the slides. So as Anastasia said, that we have prepared a really good webinar. We have a lot of information that we're going to go through. And Ivan is a really good Osint investigator, and he's really good in social links, of course. I really hope that the demos that we're going to present are going to be really interest to you. I know that you're going to get a lot of value out of them. So as Anastasia said, I'm coming from Maltego side. I have over 11 years of experience in the cybersecurity side of things. I'm from Costa Rica, but I am based in Germany. So hi to everyone in Germany and hi to everyone from Latin America. I think I saw someone from Guatemala there, so hi there. Can you move to the next slide, please? All right, so Maltego has been around for over 10 years and has helped over over 1 million investigations with thousands of reputed customers all over the globe. We serve in 3 specific verticals. So we have enterprise due diligence. We have also enterprise trust and safety. And we also have enterprise requirements in cybersecurity and SOC deployments. Next slide, please. The beauty of Maltego lays within its highest scalability. It provides you access to thousands of contextual transforms, and it gives you access to many data sources. This means that Maltego becomes a strong driver for you, and it saves you a lot of valuable time by providing you just a single interface where you can get all this information together. So if you are into Osint, you know that you will have multiple, or dozens, if not hundreds of different sources that you usually play with or that you usually leverage for your investigations. And sometimes it becomes really hard for you to be able to correlate all this data. It becomes hard to be able to visualize properly all the connections between the different data points. And this is where Maltego comes in. Next slide, please. And I was just mentioning, so Maltego can draw data in from various data sources, whether it is the open web or open source data, as we call it. You can also draw in data from your own personal databases or your company databases. And we can also get data from partner data sources, such as today we are doing it with Social Links. And this will actually help you enhance all your investigations, and it will help you get you the proper enrichment that you require for this type of investigations. And with that, over to Ivan.
Yes, hello. So hello, everyone. Very glad to have you all here today. And just a brief presentation about social links. Our company name might imply that we are focused on social media investigations, and this was true at some point. Now we're not limited to that. So basically, our solution, specifically used in Maltego, lets you focus on the actual investigation, actually doing the logical link analysis, and makes it much easier to mine the data and structure it in a single graph. We do have social media functionality, extensive one, specifically on the mainstream social media platforms. We have capabilities for dark web searches and cryptocurrency investigations. We've been in the market for 6 years already. We have more than 50 sources available in our tool, more than 1,000 different transforms available in Maltego. And we are very proud to say that we have about 50, or it might be more at this point, % of European Union law enforcement organizations among our customers. But of course, we're not limited to that geographical zone. We have customers, as is evident on today's webinar, from all around the world, which gives us extensive pride as well. So our solution allows you to search and investigate persons of interest, groups of interest, corporate entities. You can go from geolocation, you can go from an alias, you can go from a phone. It lets you analyze social media content. We have among our inner developments, our facial recognition engine, to identify faces and find those people on social media much faster than you would do it yourself in many cases. Capabilities for dark web searches, where you can search from a certain keyword, a phrase, a PGP key if you have one, search by location in some cases. And also, most recently, there has been a large add-on on gathering historical data from Telegram, on which we've had a webinar a few months ago as well, and perhaps some of you were present there. And cryptocurrency, of course. So that's basically it, and we're going to go over to the actual demonstration now. And I'm going to be showing you several graphs. In this one, we will go from a single entity, which is an identity search engine entity. And afterward, we'll go on to other cases covering other topics such as dark web searches, cryptocurrency, and analyzing an organization on several layers. So what is the Social Links identity search engine? It is our inner development that lets you query about 11 billion, I think, a database of more than 11 billion strings that are mostly comprised of data like, it could be a string, email, phone number, social media ID, some of those platforms, and a phone number, alias, IP address, email. In this case, we have a string of a GitHub ID, a supposed location, the company where this person was working at that time, and an email. So let's try and search from this. I'll use the transform SLIC extract entities. So what does this give us? This already gives us enough to start retrieving this person's digital footprint, and specifically the social media footprint. And how can this help you? This can help you determine, if you go from a limited amount of information, who this person actually is, what they do, how their personality, how their behavior in the real physical world is manifesting in the digital space, what connections do they have, and what could be further points for investigation. So let's try getting some profiles. Maybe let's start with GitHub in the case of the alias, and do some transforms on the email address as well. So we can try searching for this person on Foursquare, see if they have a Facebook account. Maybe try getting info from password recovery pages, possibly a LinkedIn account, perhaps MySpace. And also we can try Skype and use the SLIC to possibly get a linked IP address, a LinkedIn profile, and maybe some emails with similar passwords, and see where this gets us. So there is much more content on the graph now, as you can see. From each of those entities, we can go deeper and retrieve the general information, such as the followers and the following people on the GitHub account, the organizations related, the repositories they have started, their own repositories, and subscriptions. From the Foursquare account, we can get some user details, followers, followees, and so on. LinkedIn already has a photograph, so we might be able to find the person's Facebook account through that. And we can try the same on Instagram, and of course get the detail that they have disclosed about themselves on their LinkedIn page, which are, in this case, people also viewed posts commented on, endorsers, details, and so on. So what do we have now? And yes, of course, we have the ISC entities here, and they are different data strings. So this one contains an email and a Facebook account. This one contains the same as well as an IP address. And let's just try and extract the information from those. Of course, there are going to be different scenarios because as people are different in real life, as they behave differently in real life, they are going to have different patterns of behavior on social media, and in general, different patterns of behavior on the internet, in the digital space. So sometimes sometimes an email may, of course, get you less information than in this case. Sometimes a telephone number may get you very little information. But there are different ways to get creative with that. And basically, open source intelligence is all about, well, especially using graph analysis tools such as Maltego and Social Links, all about getting the second out of the first and getting the third out of the second, and then interconnecting this all together. So let's see if we can get anything from the URL to their personal website. This might give us some things as well. So we have extracted the internal URLs here. So those are all some entities which represent what we're talking about on their website. And perhaps there could be some contact information in the About Me section. So what we get is Twitter, Telegram, the fact that they have been working in Coinbase, as has been pointed out in the ISC data string. We can identify the Twitter entity, and we can try doing the same with Telegram. If that doesn't work, we just take the alias entity from the palette and run a search on them there. Sorry about that, some Cyrillics. So their alias seems to be DW Romero. So we will just connect this and try searching for them. Sometimes you can retrieve an extensive amount of historical data from Telegram, such as the user's old profile images, the user's participation in certain groups or channels. From the Twitter account, of course, we're going to get the general information such as details, followers, followees, info from password recovery pages, and so on. So let's see what we can get from Telegram, maybe some historical photos, maybe some details, groups, something else. This does give us a few groups. We can try to do some searches on them as well. So you see how that works. By this point, yes, we'll just add Facebook to this. And basically, we have mapped the presence of this person on the mainstream social media platforms, as well as some more niche, some second-tier platforms as well. And this gives us a general representation of their activity. And each of the several hundred entities already on this graph could be a possible point for further investigation, be it a link with a former employer, employee, be it a Facebook post, a relative, information about the alma mater, some video this person might have been tagged in, the alias, any kind of information on the website. And we did get all of this really quick. Well, yes, this could be, there could be many potential points for developing this further and getting more information. So I think we can go to the next section, which would be analyzing an organization. In this case, this is Harrods. I suppose there might be some people from the United Kingdom, maybe from London here, could be highly probable. And this is just an example. This could be something else. This could be a governmental organization. This could be an NGO. This could be just a small business. This could be some personal domain. So basically anything. In this case, it's a large department store, one of the largest luxury goods retailers in the world, in the center of London in Knightsbridge. So what can we do here? We can get information from Whois records. We can use security trails and other partners available in the Maltego hub. But what we use in this case is one of the Maltego machines. So those are basically sets of transforms that are performed in a certain logical sequence. One of them, called company stalker in this case, basically gives you emails and documents related to a particular domain. How does it do it? If you're familiar with the whole concept of Google dorking, it basically does the same, but using Bing. So we retrieve some emails that are listed here. There could, of course, be different ways of working with this data. In one of the cases, we find a LinkedIn account of the employee and go further with that. There are also some DNS records here, a name server entity, some web pages related to it. So basically, it's pretty easy to map out an object's domain and network infrastructure using Maltego. But what I'm talking about when I'm saying analyze an organizational entity, you could do that on several layers, and that's something that we discuss with customers sometimes. So it could be their technical infrastructure, as you have seen here. It could be the reactions and mentions of it on social media and on the internet in general. It could be their inner social structure, the organizational one, and the information about those people, the people constituting the organization on the internet, especially on social media. And it could be information from open registries, such as something that you can find using OCCRP. So in this case, we get the coordinates of this place, and we use the circular search entity to search for social media reactions, any kind of social media event within the radius of 300 meters. So we get some Instagram videos, some Facebook pages, YouTube and Snapchat entities. We also convert this to an address. And on the other trail from the employee's LinkedIn page, we also find the LinkedIn account of the organization, which gives us the same address as well. And the next thing that we do is look for different mentions from a phrase. One of the things here is we search for it in Companies House, which is a British corporate registrar. So we find Harrods Limited according to Companies House. And what can we do with that? We can get details, we can get people with significant control and officers. And we find two people with significant control, and those two gentlemen belong to the royal family of Qatar, which owns, among other things in the United Kingdom, the Harrods department store and the Harrods group. And we can see that there's also a link from the previous company name to Qatar Holding UK Limited, which we also find on LinkedIn, but it isn't very active there. There's just a single HR officer, obviously from Qatar as well. So we also search for mentions of Harrods on forums. From each forum post entity, we can extract aliases, supposed offers, and external URLs. And for different mentions using the OCCRP Aleph instrument. So those are the sources, as you can see in the run view, that are available there. You can look it up in all data sets at once, or you could be more specific depending on what you're looking for. So we can see company registries, court archives, customs declarations, gray literature, land registries, and so on. This is something developed by the journalistic community and available for free in the Maltego Hub. It's something that can complement your investigations with all of the other methods mentioned previously. And of course, yes, each of the points here could be something that you could use when investigating this further. So going on to the next section, what you can do with our dark web capabilities. There are several ways to start. One would be using an alias, and it could be an alias, for example, that you have met somewhere in other sources. Another one would be searching from a phrase, and it could be also several specific phrases. And it can also make the search more effective if you use the language customary to that particular region and to that particular social group. It could be a location, such as a country or a city, and you can get information from dark web marketplaces about products that are stated to be being shipped to or being shipped from that location. It can be a bit sounds source and market. It also emails the free link with the open key from which you get an email on mail. We haven't get anything email searching in. We may find a suspect hacker, a Steam account profile picture says an account. Yes, everyone, sorry about that. Just coming back. And an account on VK under that alias. And the initial entity is the alias Kalashnikov, which is a reference to the world famous Russian assault rifle, one of the best in the world. And VK is a major post-Soviet and predominantly Russian social network developed by the same group of people that have later developed Telegram. And we find this account here, which doesn't contain a face, and it is very closed. The only details we get is that this person is based in Moscow and Russia. How can we analyze the behavior of those accounts on those respective dark web sources? We can try converting them to a domain. We can try searching for products and user posts. So from each of the users, we can get their posting history and the products, if it's a marketplace that they are dealing in specifically. From each post that we can get the whole topic of discussion. From each topic of discussion, we can get all the other people that have participated in it. So let's try doing that. And that's basically how it works. And you can dive into the discussion and analyze the information that you see there and interconnect it between all those different accounts and what they are discussing specifically. And there could be also additional information such as wallets, discussions of deals and transactions, and so on. The products can be also converted to locations where they supposedly ship to or from, and to images. So in this case, we see that they are shipping from Europe and worldwide. And we also get some dark web domains, and that is something that Mario knows much more about than me, obviously. But if we try and get maybe some open ports and banners, then this will ascertain that this resource is working and available. Of course, the information in the clear web obtained from the alias could be just a guess, but when it's an actual investigation by a law enforcement agency, there could be some other possible ties there, and those could also be further points. We get a banner here, port 80. HTTP protocol. So yes, in this case, it is demonstrated how you can search for mentions of a Bitcoin address on the dark web. We are going to be adding, of course, more cryptocurrencies in the near future, as a lot of people involved in activities such as those are now moving to Monero. And some other ones, but there is still information that you can get from Bitcoin addresses. So we use the transform Surge Bitcoin wallet, and this graph was pre-made because it would be much easier to just show it like this, because we get the date time entities from the transactions. We extract the posts here with mentions of the addresses. And from the address, and basically we start by searching for mentions on those forums from the wallets themselves. And by the same principle, I think you will be able to look up information on other cryptocurrencies using our solution in the future. The last example here is how you can combine several sources available, which are in this case social media, namely Twitter, cryptocurrency functionality, and getting historical data from Telegram. So from hashtag ETH, we find a post where a person is asking, retweet this and drop your Ethereum address, implying that they will give Ethereum away for free. And there are several people who have responded to it. From one of those, we extract an existing Ethereum address. From it, we extract the tokens held on this address as well. From the tokens, we extract the general information about them. But the focus here is not this, although we do get some also other Twitter accounts here, and the Twitter functionality is demonstrated. But if we try and get details about the initial topic starters Twitter account, we can go into Telegram. So TG at CryptoKing 97. So we have the Telegram account here, and let's try retrieving data related to it by the same principle as we've shown you in the first graph. So those could be historical photos, details, groups, other historical info, in some cases historical geo. It could be the phone number as well, and also search using the ISE. So we get 6 groups. And from each group, maybe we can get something else and see if we can correlate this information further. So we now get the information about activity on the groups this person is participating in, including the posting history, the supposed locations, the bots used there, the participants. We can see that some of the participants are active in several groups at once. And this could be information for potential future analysis. And the principle would be applicable to anyone active on this platform. And what could be more interesting in some cases, I think that could be possible, is you could correlate the information about a person's activity on social media, be it a Telegram group, for example, or a mainstream social media account, and their transactions on the Ethereum blockchain or using any other kind of cryptocurrency. So yes, that would be the end of my actual demonstration for today. I hope this was informative. What I wanted to show was how you could combine several sources of information, several kinds of data, and several ways of working with this information possibly to aid you in your investigations. And now we can go over to our Q&A session if anybody would have any questions for
Ivan?
me or Mario. Yes?
We have 2 questions for our audience.
Yes, please. Also, yes, the 2 questions that we have, I will post them just now. So we would like to know if any of you are currently using Maltego, and if so, what kind of Maltego client you are using, and please vote in the poll. And the second one would be would you like to get Social Links Pro? And yes, I'll just look if there are any questions here. Yes, Valerio, all these searches are real time. One exception is searching in dark web. At this moment, the dark web sources are updated every hour. The information you can gather from them using our solution. All the other sources, all the searches on them are real time. So if you extract a Twitter post or a Telegram message or some kind of reaction on Facebook, then of course it will be the same as at the moment when you have run the transform. So I hope that answered your question. Yes, please, anyone else? Yes, we will share the recording of the webinar, of course. So yes, I think there are 20 more people who still haven't voted. Guys, please, we would really appreciate it if you participated in this. This feedback would be valuable to us. So yes, can you import data from other Osint results you have gotten, or just the information that is retrieved by this platform? Well, yes, you can import the data that you have obtained from other sources and work with it on the graph, of course. And you can further enrich it by using the tools that are available in the Maltego hub or in what we have at Social Links. Does Maltego...
And the second question.
Yes, so everyone, there's the second question in the vote here. Would you like to get Social Links Pro for those of you who aren't using it yet at this moment? So yes or no, and we would very much like to know your opinion. Does Maltego use an internal Tor browser to surf on onion sites?
Well, I can help you with that one. So we actually get the data directly from our partner data sources. In this case, will be Social Links. So we don't actually go and grab the data from the dark web directly. So we just query the Social Links database, for example, to get the data that you require. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, Paul, thank you very much for your question. Ethereum, well, I wouldn't call it exactly new. It was added to what we have about 2 years ago, I think. And it's based on our integration with BigQuery, who have their own analytical tools and a database available by subscription. But obviously, as we have pointed out, if you use it in Social Links, you can correlate and connect this information with what you get from other sources. And as mentioned also already, we will be adding other cryptocurrencies available on BigQuery. So there will be more sources for that. And the Telegram history. The Telegram historical data is indeed a new feature, and it has been added a few months ago, and we've hosted another webinar on that. So yes, it is new. Mario, I think the next question is something that would be better answered by you. Are all queries processed by Maltego servers? If yes, how about GDPR compliance?
Well, we do have different servers, what we call the CETA servers. So we have different servers. You can either have your own in-house servers where you can just query the different data, or we also go and query the data directly from our partner data sources, as I just mentioned. And we don't store any data in our servers, and we don't actually look at the data, or we don't have any way for us to look at the data that is being transferred. So I hope that answers the question.
Mm-hmm. So the next one is, how will this software work for people with little digital footprints, mainly children and victims of child sexual exploitation? Well, Ryan, I think that from my subjective point of view, this would depend on the end goal, what it would be. Would it be to find the actual predator? Would it be to find information about some other events that have happened with the person? You could try connecting it with information about other people related to them, and other other different logical entities. So it could be family, parents, brothers, sisters, and so on. It could be searching for information from geolocation. It could be connecting this with some of the information linked to the supposed perpetrator, such as aliases, phone numbers, could be anything, and see if there are any links between that. Does the visualization tool differentiate between match and potential match? Thank you. Yes, Denitsa, actually, if you're talking specifically about our functionality on facial recognition and mainstream social media, it does give you a probability rate. So I would say that the tool is pretty accurate, but it could give you, well, for example, you use facial recognition to look for a Facebook account, to look for a person's presence on Facebook. What you need for it to work is a full name or an alias and a photograph. And if the photograph is clear, then you will most likely get it. In some cases, especially when it's an old account, when a person has looked maybe a bit different, you will most likely get it, but the probability rate could be 70 to 80%. But you could interconnect this with information that you get from other sources, which could be other social media platforms, mentions on the internet, and so on. So I hope that answered your question, Denitsa.
And to build up on your previous question about victims of child sexual exploitation, you can combine data from social links, for example, which is a really good data to track not only the victim, but also the perpetrator. And we also have an integration with ATI Hades, which is dark web intelligence as well, that focuses on missing persons, child abuse, and so on. So I think this would be a great combination for you.
Oh, yes, Paul, thank you. We're very glad to hear that it helps you in your work. And well, yes, of course, an email is better than an alias. One of the points of using an alias is to find something that will lead you to a phone or an email to extract more information from that. The best point about the alias is that there is a transform where you can search for alias and sources. So for example, if especially some people are extra careful, of course, but there are cases when a person might forget something, a person might have been present on some platform years ago. And for example, you find the accounts on major social media platforms such as Facebook or LinkedIn, and you get a Steam account as well, and or maybe something else, or maybe some account on a marketplace, and correlate the information that you find on the mainstream social media platform with something that you find there. And yes, alias versus phrase entity. That would depend on the end goal as well. So depending what you're searching for, the phrase entity is good in a case when you want to analyze sentiment towards a particular phenomena, maybe some organization, be it a governmental or a corporate entity, or a person who might be famous and widely talked about. And if there is negative sentiment, then you can expand on the entities related to the negative sentiment and see if there could be some valuable information there. And if we're talking about dark web searches, well, for example, you search for something related to a data breach. There is the wording data breach, but there's actually there could be 5, 7, 10, 15 different ways to say the same thing. So different combinations of different words will give you different results. And the further pivoting points could possibly be the entities where the links intersect between each other. So many links pointing toward one result. This means more connections. This means that there is a higher probability that you can find something if you go from that. So yes, it all depends on what you want to get in the end. A fuzzy search for alias or only exact matching? Only the exact matching, of course. Valerio? Photo search, is it prohibited by photo in the legislation of different countries? And how do they conduct it? Are the photos kept? If so, where do the sources come from? No, that's perfectly fine. All the information pulled onto the graph is something that is out there in the open. So it's open source intelligence. It's not nobody is hacking anything or stealing anything. So it's something that you can find by yourself. And well, I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I'm aware, that's not something that's strictly prohibited somewhere. Thank you for your questions, Paul. Carlos, thank you very much. We're very glad to hear that. So yes, please, anyone else? Perhaps somebody would like to ask something.
Looks like we are fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. Well, I would suggest maybe waiting a few more minutes. Somebody might be thinking about some questions, and we don't want to miss that, of course. Mario, perhaps somebody would like to hear about how you could connect information that you get from social media with something that is more into your area of expertise, such as objects from the category of domain and network infrastructure, maybe IP addresses.
Yeah, well, sometimes what we do or what we find is with the name of a person, for example, or with an email address or a phone number. Sometimes we find, for example, websites that have been registered by these people. We do have the option to look into the whois data to get information about when a domain was registered, for example. And this gives us, this gives us the information about the website, for example, and then from the website, we can get more information, like you can retrieve the tracking codes, like the Google tracking codes, Facebook, Alexa, and so on. Then you can also, from those trackers, you can find additional websites that may have been registered by the same person or organization. And you can go back from there. You can extract, as you showed, you can extract information from the websites themselves, like you can find other email addresses, you can find other phone numbers, you can find links to social media as well. And some things that they ask sometimes is that sometimes the websites have been taken down, or the website has changed. And most of you will know that we have something, or there's something called the Wayback Machine, where you can go and get snapshots from the websites from the past. We also have an integration for this, so you can go directly in Maltego and get these snapshots. And from there, you can also grab information that may have been hidden for some reason. And then, yeah, so from the domain itself, you can get more information about the infrastructure, like do they share name servers, for example, do they share mail servers as well? And where is this infrastructure hosted? Most of the times it will be hosted behind a content delivery network like Cloudflare, for example. But a lot of times they are actually just hosted by the actual organization, or if there is a excuse me, a particular person, it could be hosted in their own infrastructure as well.
And there is a widely spread perception of, well, at least where I'm from, there are even certain memes related to it, that an IP address is a very good point of determining even in many cases a person's exact location at this exact moment. How accurate would you think that is, and how would having an actual IP address or several can help people from law enforcement specifically to get more information on the person?
Yeah, I think I've seen those memes as well, and it's very funny. I like them. I think in the past, or even, I don't know, a decade ago or something like that, it would have been more useful. But now, since the internet has exploded, and since, for example, like we have now AWS, we have Azure, and we have all these hosting providers that provide you with IPs that are shared amongst thousands of customers, it's really hard to get a lot of information out of an IP. Like it is not going to happen like in CSI, I don't know, like one of these programs where they're just going to locate you with satellites or something like that and find your address itself. But I'm not saying it's not valuable, but there's something called the pyramid of pain. I don't know if you have heard of that. So the IP addresses are one of the things that are more easily changed by the threat actors, for example. There comes the domains and so on. So it is a funny thing, but yeah, I don't think you're not going to be able to locate your house directly with one of these things, since most of us now are sharing the IPs with thousands of people or thousands of customers.
Okay, that was questions. The OPSEC when running transforms and querying possible hostile target. Well, I suppose that by OPSEC you mean operations security.
Yeah, I suppose it's asking about protecting yourself or anonymizing yourself when doing this kind of investigations. When you're querying from Maltego, as we mentioned before, it's you're either querying our paid data sources like our paid partners like Social Links, even though we have a community edition as well. And sometimes you will be querying from Maltego servers or something like that. You're not going to actually be sharing any information from your site with the actual person or the websites that or the sources that Maltego is actually visiting for you, or our data source partners are visiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a good thing to do, is to protect yourself in investigations. Like you can have your environment like in a VM, for example, a virtual machine, and do your investigations from there. Make sure that you anonymize yourself when you are actually browsing to different websites. And Maltego sometimes as well will give you the option from the websites, will give you a link that you can open. If you decide to open the link, then you will have to make sure that you are properly anonymized in there, because you're going to be actually opening a browser tab. So that's where you will actually have to be sure about what you're actually visiting.
Do I understand it correctly, Mario, that while securing yourself while conducting an investigation using Maltego wouldn't be very much different from when conducting it by hand? So basically, if people use things such as VMs and VPNs, and if they would do the same, they would be perfectly fine in general.
Yeah, in general, yes. And you also have the ability to add a proxy to Maltego as well. So I know most of you will know about the proxy chains, for example, that you can use in order to change the source where you're coming from when you're doing investigations, for example, from your terminal or your web browser. So you can include proxies as well in Maltego, so that it looks like your queries are coming from different places as well.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. York Butzer is asking about the de-anonymization of Cloudflare and domains behind Cloudflare. What do you think about that, Mario?
Well, Maltego is really good at actually gathering information about domains. We have a few machines. Is what we call a machine. Is just like a macro of different transforms that automatically gets data for you out of, for example, from domains, as we were just talking about. So you will get the domain information. The IP addresses from Cloudflare will not be really useful, or you may actually run into a rabbit hole trying to find information out of these IP addresses, but the domains themselves will probably give you information, for example, about who registered the domain, or if there are other domains being sharing a name server or a mail server, which is actually going to be more useful when you're searching or when the domain is actually hosted behind Cloudflare. And going back in time with the WHOIS data, we know that a lot of people right now is just using the privacy options to hide who actually registered a domain. But a lot of people didn't do that at the beginning, or a lot of people didn't used to do that years ago. So having the option to go back in time and look at those WHOIS the records, most of the times will give you details about, like, for example, an email address or the name of the person or the phone number of the person who actually registered the domain.
Mm-hmm. Mario, would you say that some of the Maltego, I would say Maltego machines, that's just an assumption that I have, could be one of the ways they could be useful is even to maybe analyze the possible vulnerabilities in the broad sense of the word that one's organizations has, such as, for example, when you look for emails that are associated with that particular domain, and you can enrich those further by looking for information on whether they have been compromised in some data breaches, or how active those people on social media are, and how that could possibly be used in scenarios of attacks with the use of social engineering. I would just like your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, one of the greatest things about the machines is that actually you can actually create your own.
Mm-hmm.
And Maltego does give you like a kind of templates that you can follow in order to create these machines. It does help you a lot, because it saves a lot of time by gathering all this data for you just automatically, instead of you doing it by hand. If you wanted to do something like, for example, what you just did, if you do this on a daily basis, you know that it will take will take you an hour or so, for example, to properly investigate a person, or if you're actually doing for the your organization, you can check something like Shodan, for example, check if there are any servers that are being exposed to the internet that are not supposed to be exposed to the internet, or that if there are any ports on one of those servers that you were not expecting to see outside. That's something that you may do once or twice manually, and then you realize that, okay, I can actually automate this by creating one machine. And yeah, I do believe that you will get a lot of value out from there. We do have a few machines right now that you can test in Maltego. I think most of the machines that we currently have are actually focused on that, just getting information about infrastructure for a particular company or domain. And you can do so just if you want to get, for example, the IP ranges from your organization and you want to scan off them, you can do that with one of those machines. Or if you actually want to just go ahead and drop the domain name of your organization, you can do the same. And it will go and grab the information, like if you select a domain, you will get information on the name servers, mail servers. It will give you information on the websites, for example. It will give you information about the AS numbers where these IPs belong to, and so on.
Okay, so I think we still have 57 people here. So if anyone would have any other questions towards me or Mario about Maltego or Social Links, and any ways that this can help you in your work specifically, maybe some specific methods, information about some specific data sources, specific ways to work with data from those. Mm-hmm. So Valerio Melanie is asking the question, can you explain better how it works, Maltego? Do you mean maybe some a general explanation of the architecture of the software, how it's all built, what it relies on? Yes, how it categorizes the info from the web. Does it use big data technology? Valerio, could you please specify what exactly do you mean by big data technology? And on categorization, it groups the entities depending on their data source. And you can see them on the graph marked by a specific image, and all the kinds of entities have a certain set of properties available for them, which could be and the further transforms available and the transforms that will actually work depend on what data there is in properties. So basically a transform, if we're talking in an abstract way, it's something that connects two pieces of data, two pieces of information, two logical entities, something that forms a connection between them. And the way that how connection is actually formed is by a small piece of code being executed to make a query, and through that to obtain two from one, number two from number one, for example, or obtain from 2 to 102 from one, depending on the number of results by that specific query, and visualize it on the graph connected to the previous entity. And if there are other connections between something that has already been visualized on the graph, map those as well.
Yeah, you explained it very well, Ivan. So Maltego has two main things, which one of them is entities. So the entities are like pieces of information that you can find or that you can use for investigations, like a person's name or a phone number or a domain name or an IP address. So that will be considered an entity. And we have entities in different categorizations, like we have infrastructure, domain, IP addresses, and so on. And we also have other types of entities that come or are created by our partners. In this case, like Social Links, you saw we had one was for the eyes or the search engine. We have a particular person entity for that. We also have the transforms. So as Ivan mentioned, the transforms are, you can consider them as scripts that run behind you and that connect to things like, for example, from a person, you can find a phone number and you will run a transform that calls to phone number, for example. And it's basically just retrieving the data and connecting these two entities on your graph.
Mm-hmm. And Valerio is also asking about the underlying database. Is it relational or a graph database? How do you think you would answer that, Mario?
So when you are actually retrieving the data, it is not being saved in a database. For example, in your endpoint or your device or your laptop or your computer, for example, when you're getting this data, it is Maltego is doing the link analysis for you. So it is when you get, for example, when going back to the example that I was giving before, if you query a person entity and you query in two different data sources, you query, for example, Google, and then you query Social Links, and both of these give you the same result for a phone number. Maltego, what it will do is it will understand that this phone number is actually the same phone number, and it will not give you a duplicate result in that case, for example. You can, if you want, export the data from Maltego into a CSV file, or you can create your own transform in order to connect Maltego to your own personal database or your organization's database. And you can save this in whatever way you want. You can save it to a relational database if you want, or you can save it in a kind of a graph database as well.
Yes, I think, thank you, Mario, for the answer. And I think Mr. Mihai Popescu has a question. The hand is lifted. Yes, please. Oh, Romulo, thank you very much. That's very glad to hear. Yes, Mr. York Butzer is asking about the facial recognition. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think I might have missed that part. I've used some transforms that search by a face and a name, or by a face and an alias from one source to the other. But let me show you just how it works from the actual entity. So we have the BOI that we've been looking up previously on one of those graphs. And the entity here is search profiles by face and social networks. So what is required for it to work? A full name or an alias and a photo URL. So we have both, and the photo is pretty clear, and we use those transforms. For example, Facebook search by face and name, Instagram search by face and name, LinkedIn search by face and name. It could it would be much less likely, of course, but we could try MySpace or even OK, which I'm basically joking now because this is another post-Soviet social media platform that is widely renowned and associated with people that were born maybe in the 60s, 70s, even 50s. And yes, this gives us a LinkedIn account. And the probability rate, yes, as has been asked, is 82% in this case. And we can see the general information and properties and work with it further, as has been previously demonstrated on this specific POI. The same principle would apply to working with any kind of information within Maltego using social links or other instruments. And we're waiting for some other transforms. So Facebook search by face and name returned with 0. Instagram as well. OK as well. No, that's a surprise. And MySpace is running the search now. We can try and look the person up on Facebook from the LinkedIn account. Could find something. So basically, this is an example here. We haven't found the Facebook profile using the facial recognition itself, but we have found the LinkedIn profile, and what we needed was a photo and a full name. But it could be possible to maybe obtain the Facebook account or the presence on other social media platforms by extracting the entities from the ISC, which we found here. And yes, we find the Facebook ID, Twitter, Google+, and one of the former employers, which matches the information from the LinkedIn page. And we get the Facebook account from which this photograph was taken from on the previous graph, which we have been showing you in the main demonstration. So that is how it works, and it does make things easier. And we haven't found the FB from the actual search profiles by face, but we have found it as a result of doing transforms on something that we obtained through the facial recognition functionality. So, Jorg, I hope that answers your question about the facial recognition, how it works. Can it be a local URL? Local as in a local network? I don't know, that doesn't seem likely. It's what queries are possible using TikTok? Well, at this point, you can find a TikTok profile by searching by face and name or face and alias. And from the TikTok profile, you can get the posts associated with that particular profile. Can I get an email link of the class? Busy with another course right now from the government, if it's being recorded. Yes, Gary, I think we will share the recording of this webinar with the participants later on. what queries are possible using Kik? I don't think we have this among our list of sources. It could be something that we will add in the future, but you could search for information on WhatsApp, Telegram, and Snapchat from the major widely used messengers. For the picture, it could be a URL from, okay. York, it could be a URL. For example, you have found a photograph of a person on some third party, some third tier source, not Facebook, not LinkedIn, not Instagram, and you insert the URL to that particular picture. And if you already have the full name or the alias, use it to search for this PI on the major social networks available within social links. So that's how it works.
Yeah, I think you can attach the picture from URLs that are exposed to the internet, of course, not only local or internal URLs, but if you can also attach the picture manually, like if you have the actual file in your device or in your network, you can actually attach the actual file to the Maltego entity.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Okay, so does anyone else perhaps have any other questions? Oh, and actually, yes, well, Jörg, thank you very much as well for attending today. I guess while we don't have any questions at the moment, maybe it could be interesting as well. One thing you could use to complement the facial recognition functionality in terms of working with imagery. So there could be several categories of that. Facial recognition, reverse image search, and analyzing metadata, such as getting EXIF data, for example. Reverse image search lets you search for that image, well, anywhere, in this case, from the image in the Facebook account, on other sources, using a search engine. What we have available here is reverse image search in Google and reverse image search in Yandex. And many people tell me that Yandex, searching in Yandex is actually better because it doesn't apply the amount of filters that Google does. So for example, if you're searching for, if you have a photograph of a person, of a man in a suit, for example, or a lady in a hat, some of the possible results that you will get from Google is man in costume or a woman in hat, for example. But here we search for it in Yandex and we find mentions of Coinbase, the former employer of this person, many of them. So we can see URL, Coinbase General Manager Dan Romero called Coinbase a measure twice, cut once culture, from Business Insider with the actual photograph that they have on Facebook from which we have done the search. Another Business Insider article, an article on finance, Yahoo, title e-commerce giant opens its new crypto exchange to customers. Another Coinbase mention, crypto fans, Coinbase exec Dan Ramiro leaving crypto exchange after 5 years. So yes, basically that's how it works, and it could complement the results that you get from using facial recognition as well.
Yeah, and going back to your comment about Yandex versus Google, it is always a good idea to check different browsers, right? When you're doing either when you're doing manual work, checking for example, dorking or something like that, it's always a good idea to check different browsers. They will give you different information based on the, for example, what they index, and as you mentioned, what they want to filter out. So yeah, I also find these transforms very useful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Mario, for adding to that as well. So, Anthony is asking us, I'm not used to Maltego. Do you have any useful shortcut keys to speed up searches? Or is it possible to assign a key to a specific transform?
We do have a few shortcuts that are useful mostly for navigating through the graph or through the entities on the graph. We don't have an option to assign a specific key to a specific transform per se. But yeah, we do have in our website. If you go to our website, you will find that the different guides there. It saves you a lot of time in just moving around, which is actually when you get these big graphs, is you tend to move around a lot, trying to see the different groups of data, and trying to zoom in or zoom out from the graph. Actually, it's very useful. So yeah, I do recommend you to go back to our website and you'll find there a guide.
Mm-hmm. Also, Anthony, another way that could maybe make this easier for you, there are different kinds of views inside Maltego. So yes, as Mario has mentioned, if, for example, you have a large graph, in this case, this isn't by any means large. So even 5,900 entities, it could be much more, especially when you're at the stage of actually filtering out the information. And it's a really interesting feature that lets you to, the different kinds of views here, but they let you look at a single set of information from several logical angles. But that's another thing. What I want to show you is how you can use the list view, and this can also make things much easier. So you just type in your specific query here. So a family name, for example, and it lets you find it quick. If it's a large graph, it does make things more comfortable. Yes, I hope that helps.
Yeah, and this that you mentioned about the views as well, that's something that is really useful when you got big graphs. This one with 5,900 entities, you would say it's a big graph, but you will actually come up sometimes with tens of thousands of entities in the same graph. Mm-hmm. And just changing the different views just to play with it to see what it does or how it just helps you focus on different types of data in your graph. It's actually something that is Maltego is really good at, and it helps you a lot to analyzing where actually you have to go now from the point in the investigation where you're at.
Mm-hmm. So there are still 40 people left, and Perhaps somebody else wants to ask something. Please, we're open to questions.
I think there was a question about is it possible to stream again? I think Ivan mentioned a couple of times they're going to be sharing the recording for the presentation for the webinar. So yeah, you will be able to check it again.
Okay, in that case, thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. We were very glad to see you, and we hope that this presentation was helpful. We will be hoping to see you on our future events as well. We will be covering other topics, different topics, perhaps going deeper in some parts of our functionality and some scenarios, some possible use cases. And yes, also, I must mention that there is a lot of, there will be more information on the YouTube channels of Social Links and Maltego as well. There will be interesting stuff. There will be something similar to what you have seen, and there will be coverage of something more specific, more in depth. So yes, in that case, thank you very much, and we wish you a good remainder of the day, or a good evening, or a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Yes, fine. Thank you. Goodbye, Mario. Goodbye, everyone.